What were the boundaries of the land promised to Israel by God in Numbers 34? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Numbers on Walking Through the Bible.
The glory of His cross.
If you have a Bible with you, turn to Numbers 34. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 15. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Numbers 34, beginning of verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel, and say to them, When you shall come into the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you as an inheritance, the land of Canaan to its boundaries. Your southern border shall be from the wilderness of Zin along the border of Edom. Then your southern border shall extend eastward to the end of the Salt Sea. Your border shall turn from the southern side of the ascent of Akrabim, continue to Zin, and be on the south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it shall go on to Hazar Adar, and continue to Asmon. The border shall turn from Asmon to the brook of Egypt, and it shall end at the sea. As for the western border, you shall have the great sea for a border. This shall be your western border. And this shall be your northern border. From the great sea you shall mark out your border line to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor you shall mark out your border to the entrance of Hamath. Then the direction of the border shall be towards Zedad. The border shall proceed to Ziphron, and it shall end at Hazar Enan. This shall be your northern border. You shall mark out your eastern border from Hazar Enan to Shepham. The border shall go down to Shepham to Riblah on the east side of Ain. The border shall go down and reach to the eastern side of the Sea of Chinnereth. The border shall go down along the Jordan, and shall end at the Salt Sea. This shall be your land with its surrounding boundaries. Then Moses commanded the children of Israel, saying, This is the land which you shall inherit by lot, which the Lord has commanded, to give to the 9 tribes and to the half-tribe. For the tribe of the children of Reuben, according to the house of their fathers, and the tribe of the children of Gad, according to the house of their fathers, have received their inheritance, and the half-tribe of Manasseh has received its inheritance. The 2 tribes and the half-tribe have received their inheritance on this side of the Jordan, across from Jericho eastward towards the sunrise. At the end of the last chapter, we had God telling Israel that when they entered Canaan, they were to dispossess the people of Canaan from their land and destroy this people. They were also to destroy their images, their high places, and anything that was associated with idolatry. If they did not do this, then those that remained would be a thorn in their side, leading them into sin, and if that was so, they would be punished one day just like the Canaanites were being punished now. Coming to chapter 34, we have a continuation of this, with God spelling out the borders in Canaan that would become the borders of Israel. We first start with the southern border. It is this border that can lead to confusion simply because of the misplacement of Kadesh that we've been studying about in this book. Many scholars place Kadesh within the southern borders of what would become Judah. But this cannot be, because then Israel would have been within the borders of the promised land twice in the book of Numbers and been wandering around the southern edge of the promised land, or inside it, for much of the years of the wilderness wandering. The only thing that makes sense in the text is that Kadesh is outside the borders of the promised land, and therefore placed on the border of Edom, on the east side of the Jordan River, as we have placed it not only here, but in our earlier studies as well. Israel's southern border begins at the bottom of the Salt Sea, which is the Dead Sea. It continues east ever so slightly towards the border of Edom, and will turn south on the southern side of the ascent of Akrabim, continue down to the wilderness of Zin, and continue on the south of Kadesh. It would then turn west just south of Kadesh and continue towards Hazar Adar, and would continue on along the brook of Egypt until it reached the sea, which is the Mediterranean Sea. The western border of Israel would be simple, for it would simply be the Mediterranean Sea. The northern border would extend from the sea on the west and would continue east to Mount Hor, which is a different Mount Hor than the one we've seen already in Numbers, and would end at Hazar Enan. On our map, we have the northern border beginning just north of Sidon and traveling east until it was perpendicular with the Jordan River to the north, although the Jordan doesn't extend that far. The eastern border would then begin there and travel south through the Sea of Chinnereth, which in the New Testament is known as the Sea of Galilee, and then end at the northern tip of the Salt Sea. I would like us to note that Israel's northern border does not extend to the Euphrates River. Yet in Genesis 15:18, it is made clear that that would be given to Abraham's descendants. Is there a contradiction here? Not if we also look at Genesis 17, verse 8, which says, "Also I give to you and your descendants after you the land in which you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God." The land of Canaan didn't stretch all the way up to the Euphrates. Its boundaries are generally what we describe here in Numbers 34. So what of the promise of Abraham in Genesis 15? It represented the potential land that Israel could possess, and in fact did possess for a short time under King David and Solomon, if they obeyed God. Israel only possessed this expanded territory for a time, because on the whole, Israel didn't obey God. And after the reign of Solomon, Israel would be split in two, with the northern tribes never walking righteously before God, hence why their borders didn't extend this far after that period of time. All of God's promises to Abraham were fulfilled, but they were fulfilled in God's time. The boundaries of Israel described here in Numbers 34 were going to be the inheritance of 9.5 tribes that didn't receive land on the east side of the Jordan, for remember that Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh had already received land there. Who would be responsible for dividing the land up? We'll discuss that, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Numbers 34, verses 16 to 29, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.